Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we look into the issues facing our military troops, veterans, and their families. In Washington, D.C., a CBS News investigation continues to uncover a disturbing trend in how the military addresses domestic violence. And in Los Angeles, we get a history lesson on two groundbreaking African-American generals whose achievements were forgotten for decades. But we begin with how stress from military service and deployments can impact both service members and their loved ones. Catherine Herridge speaks with one family who says they were nearly broken apart by war and learns how a nonprofit helped repair their relationship.
The emotions were real. Yeah. It was, like I said,
as close to love it as
first sight.
A year after Brant and Tanya Ireland met in 2002, he pursued his other passion to serve, joining Army Special Forces.
I'll never forget the night he kind of sprung it on me that he was going to join the military.
And you thought what?
Why? I had no idea really what like a Green Beret meant.
As Tanya, a pediatric trauma nurse, cared for their two young daughters, Brant Ireland deployed overseas more than a half dozen times, tracking terrorist operatives.
Where have you been?
Afghanistan, kind of home away from home.
And he's a little humble. He actually deployed one time after his injury, which still just fascinates me that he had that grit to be able to go back over.
That injury occurred in 2013, while Brant went over a steep drop-off during an overnight raid into northeastern Afghanistan.
We were pretty weighted down with gear. It was supposed to be a couple-day operation.
A lot of ammunition.
We estimated I was carrying about 150 pounds. I dislocated my leg, and I knew that, like I felt it fall underneath me, but had no idea how badly I had broken it. It literally felt like my leg was gonna explode from the inside.
Tanya witnessed the severity of his injury, followed by 20 surgeries and hundreds of hours of rehab.
Frustration and bitterness sat in with me because I saw somebody that I love starting to fail. I think mentally, spiritually, and then that kind of infiltrated us as a couple.
It just became more and more apparent that in order to get back to where I wanted to be and where I wanted us to be as a family, that amputation was, it became a no-brainer.
Brant had surgery to amputate his leg in June of 2015. But as he healed, it seemed like his marriage never would.
At that point, where were you as a couple?
I loved him. I vowed to love him, but I can't say I really liked him that much at that time. It was tough.
We were definitely in the same house and sometimes the same bed, but living two entirely different existences or lives, basically.
Where did Operation Healing Forces come in?
At the right time, by the grace of God. Yeah, now that one will make me tear up.
The Irelands are talking about Operation Healing Forces.
All of our couples, all of our soldiers have two things in common. They're all special ops, and they're all injured, mentally, physically, or both.
The charity, started by Gary Markell, has sent more than 1,100 special operators and their partners on retreats designed to mend relationships damaged by the call of duty, with donors loaning their vacation homes from Aspen, Colorado, to Naples, Florida, and the Caribbean.
We have employed retreat leads. Most of them are retired Rangers that have been through the same thing as the couples and the soldiers, such as the Irelands, who have become dear friends of ours, and I think we've helped them with their life as well, so it's just very rewarding for us.
In 2016, the Ireland spent a week on Markell's yacht with 4 other couples in the British Virgin Islands.
It refreshed us. It refreshed our souls. It refreshed our marriage. It connected us with other individuals, and that's something special, when you can just sit in a room quietly and not have to rehash everything and still have that sensation of, I know what you went through.
A powerful communion in a community of service members who often put themselves last.
It was an opportunity where we just really both of us felt so appreciated.
Bolstered by that experience, Brant has continued to rebuild his life, regaining confidence through adaptive sports, winning more than 24 gold medals at competitions like the Warrior Games and Prince Harry's Invictus Games.
I remember having that competitive spirit, and I remember that being a big part of who I was, and that's the first first part of myself that I recognized in a long time.
Little soccer practice checklist.
And now showing up for his family.
Honestly, where we're at now is, I kind of call him Mr. Mom. It's like we did a role reversal, and he runs with the girls and practices and travel ball, and it's pretty special.
Tanya has also transitioned, now with a career in real estate. The couple is approaching their 20th wedding anniversary with a renewed commitment to each other and hoping their story can be an inspiration.
We're just so proud to have been a part of just a small piece of history, and we realize it's a really hard lifestyle, but it's probably one of the most rewarding.
Just to be in that same community or group is just an honor.
Coming up, domestic violence survivors making a push for the military to improve how it handles cases involving service members. This is Eye on America. Welcome back. A CBS News investigation found a troubling response in how the military handles cases of domestic violence within its ranks. Nora O'Donnell speaks with some of the women who are still waiting for justice, despite the Pentagon's promise to act.
When Army reservist Leah Olszewski reported assault by a member of the Air Force in 2017, she turned over this audio recording.
I'll knock your front teeth out. You want to step to me like a man? I will knock your front teeth out. So shut the up, woman.
Military investigators also reviewed this body cam footage from a 911 call when police found bruises on her arms.
How many times has this happened?
This is like the 5th time.
Retired Master Sergeant Erica Johnson reported her abuse to the Air Force in 2018. She gave military prosecutors recorded phone calls with her alleged abuser, including this apparent admission.
I didn't do anything to deserve that. You had no right to put your hands on me.
I know I screwed up that night. I know I did.
Did the Air Force hear those recordings?
Yes. Twice.
Still, the military did not bring charges. Lawyer Carol Thompson represents the women we spoke with.
They listened to it, they quoted it, and that was reviewed by the Secretary of the Air Force's IG in the investigation. So the Pentagon had access to that information.
The domestic violence survivors accuse the Air Force of mounting a purposeful public relations cover-up. Why would the Secretary of the Air Force want to cover this up?
There's a lot of evidence. There was enough evidence that for any reasonable prosecutor to look at that could have said, I think this should go forward to a court-martial. They didn't want to admit that they had messed up.
2 years ago, a CBS News investigation exposed dangerous gaps in how the military handles cases of domestic violence.
He kicked me in the stomach, and I flew off the bed into the closet doors.
There's no doubt in my mind he was going to kill me.
CBS News spoke with nearly 40 survivors, including Erica and Leah.
We have this update to our investigation.
Our reports prompted Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall to order an Inspector General review of the investigation and disciplinary actions associated with these cases. He also made personal assurances to the survivors, as heard in this newly obtained recording.
I have proof that the investigators didn't do their job.
I don't doubt that, and we can look into that.
More than 2 years later, the survivors say they're still waiting for justice. The Inspector General review of their cases did not examine whether law enforcement conducted investigations correctly, but instead focused on the Air Force's support services.
Leaders should not be making promises that they can't fulfill or have no intention of fulfilling.
Only after our reporting, investigators reopened Leah's case and uncovered 4 additional victims of her ex-partner, including one woman who had reported his behavior to the military a decade earlier. This new evidence, it dates back to 2008?
It does.
What if the command had taken action then?
Then we'd have a different outcome with Leah. Maybe Leah would never even have met him.
And what do your clients want to see happen?
Ideally, they would like to see a court-martial. Unfortunately, in some of the cases, in Leah's case and Erica's case, that can't happen because the statute of limitations has passed.
Leah raised concerns in an email to Secretary Kendall that time was running out to bring charges in her case. He said a decision will be made before the statute of limitations expires. Thompson says that didn't happen.
Do you think the military was stalling?
Yes and no. They blew past statute of limitations that they knew existed. It's a lot to say that they did it intentionally, but there's also a lot of evidence that they knew what the repercussions were going to be and that maybe they did so intentionally.
But it wasn't too late in Emily Brierley's case.
Did the military take steps to keep you safe?
They did not. No. They promoted him.
Just last month, 5 years after reporting her abuse, the Air Force did file charges against Emily's alleged abuser. Leah and Erica will never see charges in their cases. One of their alleged abusers retired honorably. The other remains in the service.
Why do these cases matter?
Individuals who commit domestic violence, who abuse the most intimate relationship, those are individuals that you cannot trust. And those are individuals that simply should not be in the service.
Ahead, we'll introduce you to a story of two so-called invisible generals who are finally getting their due. Stay with us. We close our show with a little-known piece of history. A factual error in a Hollywood film a decade ago led one man on a quest to tell the story of the first black generals in the U.S. military. A father-son duo who played a key role in desegregating our troops. Jeff Glor meets author Doug Melville, whose work aims to restore their legacy.
These are American boys going to work. They're flying over Italy, over the coast of Holland, and over Germany, in search of the enemy.
By now, the Tuskegee Airmen are among our nation's most celebrated public servants. African-American military pilots who flew during World War II, led by Squadron Commander Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., seen here with his father.
The Distinguished Flying Cross was presented to Colonel Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. by the Army's highest-ranking Negro officer, Brigadier General Benjamin O. Davis, Sr.
There are books, documentaries, and movies about Tuskegee. The most famous was Red Tails in 2012.
These jets ain't nothing. We need more speed. Let's get some altitude.
But when Benjamin O. Davis Jr.'s great-nephew Doug Melville attended a Red Tails screening more than a decade ago,
Colonel,
he noticed one whopping omission.
I was expecting General Benjamin O. Davis, who was being played by Terrence Howard, to be addressed as such in the movie. But then when he walked on screen, he was the commander of the Red Tails. He looked just like him. But when he was addressed, it was Colonel Bullard.
Colonel Bullard. Sir.
The name of the most prominent black general in American history had been changed.
I was looking around the theater wondering, does anybody realize that that's not the right name? And the movie ended and we had an after party, and I started asking people who were producers and involved in the movie, hey, do you know anything about the names in the movie? And they kept saying to me, Doug, this is Hollywood. This is not a documentary.
How did that make you feel?
I froze because all I could think of was these men fought for their country. They were invited to the screening. This is their biggest moment on screen. And the names were changed and they were in attendance. It immediately sparked something in me that I needed to be the person to help continue this story and dive into the lives of Benjamin O. Davis Sr. and Jr. and understand who were these men, what were their contributions, and what other parts of this story are unknown.
Benjamin O. Davis Sr. was born in 1880. Rejected at West Point because of his race, he still found a way to serve his country and raised a son who dreamed of doing the same. But with the Army segregated, Ben Sr. had to uproot his family just so Ben Jr. could get appointed to the academy.
His father had to relocate to Illinois to get the signature of Oscar DePriest, who was the only black representative at the time. And I think sometimes we forget, but this is the 30s where people are black Americans and white Americans. and people are used to using the term Negro or Black American. But when it says nationality of father and nationality of mother,
He just says American.
I love it.
It's great.
I love it.
No black, no white. American.
And that was what his father told him to fight for, and that's what I fight for today.
Even after arriving at West Point, Davis Jr. faced nonstop discrimination. For 4 years, he ate every single meal alone because white cadets refused to share a table with him. He would still go on to an extraordinary career, not just leading the Tuskegee Airmen.
For 25 years after the war, Benjamin Davis Jr. rose to complex security challenges in Air Force postings at home and abroad.
At the Department of Transportation, Davis Jr. came up with the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit most of our highways still use, and created the initial version of what's now the TSA, in response to a wave of airline hijackings.
Hijackers have been afforded service and responsiveness that's not provided even the first-class traveler.
But while on active duty, Davis Jr. never got the 4th star most everyone felt he deserved. And even when he was given that much later, he was denied something else.
In 1998, we were all invited to the White House grounds to go participate. But the night before, we had to sign a piece of paper that said that we would not get financially compensated for the 31 years that had passed from when he was scheduled to get the star in 1967, or compensated moving forward if he were to live after the promotion, which ended up being a total of 35 years. And his wife of over 60 years, Jeff, did not come to the ceremony because she was so furious that we would be given the honor, but only under the condition that no financial money would be accrued.
At West Point today, thanks in part to Melville's push, the Davis name is no longer hidden.
So this is it.
This is it, and I actually haven't seen this since we cut the ribbon, so...
Are you tearing up because it's cold or because you're emotional?
I think it's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
The Davis Barracks is the newest residence on campus, a towering memorial to a family finally visible.
To imagine that he went here for 4 years, completely silenced, and here we are standing here today in this huge monument, and Barracks has his name on it. It's unbelievable. It's hard sometimes to really put it into words because...
You don't have to. Your face says it all.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news 24/7, stream us right here on CBS News. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.